Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the incredibly high-stakes, deeply fascinating world of semiconductor manufacturing. Have you ever actually stopped to think about the invisible quality assurance work that powers, well, literally all of our modern devices? Seriously, from the smartphone in your pocket right now to the laptop on your desk, your car, and even satellites orbiting the Earth, they all completely depend on microscopic chips containing billions of transistors. And here's the kicker. Those chips absolutely must work perfectly the very first time they're manufactured. There's no margin for error. So in this explainer, we're going to unpack a critical phase of the VLSI design flow known as design verification. It is basically the ultimate safety net of the tech world, and I'm so excited to guide you through exactly how it works.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. 1. The million-dollar mistake. 2. Defining design verification. 3. Inside the test bench. 4. Hunting bugs in coverage. And 5. The final tape-out.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the million-dollar mistake.
Consider this scenario for a second. Imagine you're buying a brand new car. Would you ever expect the manufacturer to just sell it to you without checking the brakes, or the steering, the engine, or the airbags? Obviously not, right? Car companies perform thousands upon thousands of tests before a vehicle ever gets close to a showroom floor. Now, in the software world, if something breaks, you can just push out a patch on day one. No big deal. But chip companies, they face a much harsher reality on a microscopic scale. They have to run millions of tests before they ever even start the physical manufacturing process.
And here is exactly why we do that. Fabricating a semiconductor chip is just an incredibly expensive undertaking. Suppose a company designs a brand new processor. If there is even one tiny bug in that design, literally just one small logic error, the consequences are absolutely catastrophic. That single bug can render an entire silicon wafer completely unusable. It forces what the industry calls a silicon respawn. And a respin? That means going all the way back to the drawing board. You lose months of time, and you're incinerating millions of dollars in an instant. Plus, a mistake like that delays product launches and severely damages a company's reputation. You just can't patch a physical chip once it's been printed in silicon.
Which brings us to Section 2, defining design verification.
So, what actually is design verification? Essentially, it's the process of rigorously checking whether a chip design behaves exactly as intended before it's sent off for manufacturing. Think of it like building a massive 100-floor apartment building. The architects drop the blueprints, and the engineers build it out. But before a single person is allowed to move in, inspectors have to verify every single room, every water pipe, and every electrical connection. Because if they don't, one small mistake could cause the entire building's infrastructure to fail. Design verification does exactly this for chips. It ensures the register transfer level, or RTL design, functions perfectly under normal conditions and even under heavily abnormal edge cases.
Now, what's really interesting here is how often beginners confuse two vital terms in this industry, verification and validation. Let's use a standard desktop calculator to clear this up. If a customer asks for a calculator, verification asks the question, did we build it correctly? Meaning, if I press 2 plus 2, does the underlying digital logic actually execute the math for addition? Validation, on the other hand, asks, did we build the right product? Meaning, did we actually deliver a calculator, or did we accidentally build a digital thermometer? Design verification is strictly 100% focused on that first question, proving that the digital logic matches the exact architectural specifications.
Moving right along to Section 3, inside the test bench.
To actually test a chip, engineers build this entirely separate, complex environment called a test bench, and it consists of 5 main components all working together in total harmony. First, we have the DUT, or Design Under Test. That's the actual RTL code we're evaluating. Second is the driver. The driver is actually super fascinating because it takes high-level commands like read memory and translates them into the exact cycle-by-cycle electrical pin wiggles required to stimulate the DUT. Third, the monitor sits there, passively, just observing the outputs and translating those raw pin signals back into readable data. Fourth, the scoreboard takes those outputs and compares them against a golden reference model. And finally, the checker instantly flags any mismatches.
If all of that technical architecture sounds a bit abstract, let's map it to a real-world analogy to let it sink in. Just imagine a really rigorous school exam. In this scenario, the test bench is the strict teacher conducting the test, and the RTL design is the student taking the exam. The inputs generated by the driver, those are the test questions. The outputs collected by the monitor, those are the student's answers. And the scoreboard is what determines the final grade of pass or fail. The student can only graduate, or in our world, move on to physical manufacturing if they pass this grueling exam perfectly.
And the way we actually administer this exam is through simulation. Simulation simply means running the RTL design virtually on a computer, well before any physical manufacturing happens. It honestly functions a lot like a highly complex video game. Instead of printing the physical chip to see if it turns on, engineers run it in a virtual space using industry-standard tools, things like Siemens Questasim, Synopsys VCS, or Cadence Excellium. Now, because modern chips are so unbelievably complex, these simulations require massive server farms. We're talking about computers crunching numbers for weeks straight just to verify one single subsystem within the chip.
Next up, Section 4, Hunting Bugs and Coverage.
So, what are these engineers actually hunting for all day? Bugs. In hardware design, a bug is simply defined as any behavior that differs from the original specification. Basically, it's a mismatch between the expected output and the actual output in your simulation. If the spec says that input A plus input B should equal C, but the simulation spits out D, boom, you found a bug. Or hey, even if it outputs C, but it takes one clock cycle too long to do it, that is also a critical bug. Identifying every single one of these little errors before manufacturing is literally the entire goal of a verification engineer.
But here's the million-dollar question. How do you actually know if you've hunted down all the potential bugs? You can't just guess. This is where a vital metric called coverage comes into play. The first flavor of this is code coverage, which tracks exactly which lines of the RTL code were physically executed during your tests. Line coverage checks if every single line of code was hit. Branch coverage goes a level deeper, checking if every if, then, or else decision path was explored. Toggle coverage is incredibly specific to hardware. It makes sure every single digital signal flipped from a 0 to a 1 and back again. And FSM, or finite state machine coverage, ensures the chip transitioned through all its intended operational states without ever getting frozen or stuck.
Now, let's pivot to the second, and honestly, probably the more critical type, functional coverage. While code coverage checks if the code just executed, functional coverage checks if all the intended features have actually been tested. Let's look at an elevator controller as an analogy. Code coverage might tell you the elevator's basic logic ran. Great. But functional coverage asks the tough scenario questions. Okay, did you verify it going to floor 1? What about floor 2? Did you test the overload sensor? What happens in emergency mode? Here is the absolute crucial insight. You can have 100% code coverage, but if your functional coverage is low, you still haven't tested the things the user actually cares about.
And finally, Section 5, the final tape-out. As we get closer to tape-out, which is just the industry term for the final handoff to manufacturing, it's super important to eliminate any confusion between design verification and physical verification. Let's walk through a quick side-by-side. On the left side of things, design verification focuses on checking the logic and functionality using the RTL code. And this all happens before synthesis. Its one and only goal is finding logic bugs. Now, on the right, physical verification happens much later. It checks the actual physical layout, often called the GDS2 file. It ensures the physical geometry of those microscopic wires and transistors doesn't violate any strict manufacturing constraints. So they are two totally distinct but perfectly complementary processes.
So the crucial point here is the ROI. The return on investment that design verification brings to the table absolutely cannot be overstated. By finding bugs before fabrication, companies save literally millions of dollars in wasted manufacturing costs, and they avoid those dreaded silicon respins we talked about. It vastly improves chip quality, it reduces product failures out in the real world, and it seriously increases overall reliability. Ultimately, this rigorous QA process is what guarantees first-pass silicon success. That is the absolute holy grail of the industry, meaning the very first physical prototype you get back actually turns on and works right out of the box.
Now, because the stakes are just phenomenally high, you might actually be pretty surprised by this next number. Verification often consumes 60 to 70% of the total chip development effort. Yeah, you heard that right. More than half the time and money spent designing a chip goes entirely into verifying it. Why? It all comes down to a concept called the state-space explosion. See, a modern chip with billions of transistors has more possible mathematical combinations of states than there are actual atoms in the universe. Exhaustively testing every single combination, it's physically impossible. So engineers have to dedicate massive resources to crafting incredibly smart randomized test scenarios to maximize their coverage without testing every single atom, so to speak.
Which leaves us with a truly profound question to wrap things up. With modern chips already containing tens of billions of transistors, how will verification engineers manage to verify the unimaginable complexity of tomorrow's technology?
It is this constant, ever-evolving challenge, and it requires some of the most brilliant minds and cutting-edge methodologies on the planet. I want to thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. Seriously, the next time you use your smartphone, take just a second to appreciate the incredible, invisible QA work of design verification that makes the whole thing possible. Keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.